between his heat. Hit him with the jab, get a good look. Good look, good look, good look, good look, good look, good look. ISO zones, breaking bones. Put your hands up when you getting sent home off a good look. Good look, good look, good look, good look, good look, good look. It's the Good Look Podcast. It's the Good Look Podcast. It's the Good Look Podcast.
Yes, sir, and welcome to episode 43 of the Good Look Podcast. I'm your host, Leonard Pinckney, a.k.a. Agent P, a.k.a. L Pinckney, here to give you guys another episode on YouTube. Please like, rate, comment, and subscribe at the Good Look Podcast. Also on my Instagram, at the Good Look Podcast. Please make a review and like the podcast. If you're listening just to the audio, please do that. Like I said on the YouTube, subscribe, comment, do all those things. I really appreciate it, y'all. Got a pretty good number last week, so looking to continue to do that. Got some good feedback. I know I had a guest here, the first episode, my guy Jarwin. I'm going to get some more guests on here, so don't worry, y'all. I know that's something that a lot of you have asked for, so and appreciated in that first pod of the season 2. So I'm going to get back into that, don't you worry. But for today, we're kind of at the quarter mark of the season, y'all. So there's some NBA news I'm kind of going to mix in with some of the stuff. I'm kind of just going to go a little bit of free form on this one. I don't really have a lot of big topics, but there are some things that I do want to discuss in the league. So let's go ahead and get into this. First off, a couple of somber notes, but something really good as well. So we're going to first start off with Caris LeVert. Last week, it was found out after the trade happened that he had a growth on his kidney, and it happened to be cancerous, and that was found out this past week. And he had successful surgery to get the lump off, so it looks like he's going to be doing all right. And it's crazy just how life works, man. Just thinking about how if Caris stayed in Brooklyn and he didn't get traded, he would have ended up he wouldn't have got the MRI. So the MRI wouldn't have found out what's going on with him. So this trade could have been something that really saved his life, and it could have been way, way worse. So thank goodness he had successful surgery. He's still out indefinitely for Indiana, which is fine. Let the kid get better, recover, do whatever he can, make sure he's cancer-free, and then we can get him back into the league, and hopefully he can start hooping again soon. But that was incredible news to hear this week amongst some pretty sad stuff. So shout out to Caris. Keep getting better, man. Prayers up. Rest in peace to Sekou Smith. For those who don't know, Sekou Smith was a basketball analyst, a journalist. He did a lot of his stuff on NBA TV for the past 8 seasons. And he was just a really nice guy. Like you could read it through the screen, the way he analyzed things, the way he asked interview questions. He always just seemed like a really nice guy, and you could judge by the way everyone who tweeted about him, all his colleagues, they all agreed this was just a guy who was incredibly helpful and modest and inquisitive about the game of basketball, something that we all love. And it's a real sad loss to see one of these guys who you take for granted, like watching these guys every day, you know, like if you go to the TNT guys, like watching Shaq and Ernie and them, or going on ESPN, you'll see a guy like Tim Legler and stuff, Stephen A. and Max on First Take, guys like that. We almost take that for granted. And obviously these are still real people too, dealing with real things. And it was because of COVID. I mean, it's just, this thing has ravaged the entire world, and hopefully, man, we are able to get back to some form of semblance. The vaccines are out there. You get the chance, please get them. And in the meantime, please just continue to be safe, man. There's just way too many examples of people who are close, not close, all corners of the globe being affected. So if you could do your best and do your part, please do. But Sekou Smith, appreciate you being one of the real good guys in the industry. Rest in peace, sir. And yeah, January 26th, that was the anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant passing away with his daughter and all the other people in the crash. Rest in peace to them. Rest in peace to the Bryants. Thoughts and prayers to the family members, all of them. That's just such a tragic thing that happened. And obviously for the sports world, losing Kobe, it's one of the craziest things I've ever experienced in my lifetime. I remember I started the pod almost a year from it's almost the 1-year anniversary of this pod, so that'll be a nice thing to talk about. But going back to Kobe, I remember we were getting food. People that know, I'm half Filipino, so we was getting Jollibee, and all of a sudden you start hearing your phone blow up, and then you start checking Twitter, and everybody's like, yeah, he died in a helicopter crash. And I was with my parents at the time, and Mom's a big Laker fan. So then I told her, and it was just shock, man. I remember sitting there for like an hour. We were supposed to go eat, but we didn't. We just sat there for an hour, and we're just like, this is really true. And then all the false reporting that came out after was sick and disgusting and all that stuff like that. But yeah, man, it's one of the craziest days. It's hard to even fathom still, to know that, like, even if you didn't know him personally, he was just somebody you grew up with, you know? And it's like when people are sad when artists pass away too soon or anything like that, it's one that just really, really hit. And some of my favorite memories are when January 22nd, I was born on the 21st, so I always remember the 22nd because of the 81-point game being a day after my birthday. And I remember watching that game, and it was on Fox Sports at the time still. And 55 in the second half, I think 28 of 46 from the field. It's one of the best, obviously, scoring performances of all time. And that was incredibly special to watch in 06. He was having an incredible season. I think he averaged 35 that year. And then the other memories are when he played my Nuggets, especially in the Western Conference Finals in 09. He was a killer, man. He was ruthless. He's the one guy on the court I've always been scared of as a fan. Like, no matter how good that team was in 09, we took him to 6. It always felt like Kobe had an answer. Like, no matter if we went on a run, got a couple good stops. Chauncey Billups was hitting, Melo was hitting. It didn't matter. If the game was close, Kobe was going to find a way to win it, and he ended up doing it. In 09, they actually didn't win the title. They ended up losing or they actually did win the title, excuse me. They beat the Magic that year. So that would have been the NBA would have hated it if the Nuggets and the Magic made it to the finals. But we hated it because LeBron found a way to lose with a 60-win Cavs team, which ended up getting exposed by the Magic. So we never got to see Kobe and LeBron in the finals, which is something that really was tough. But ultimately, Kobe won that one. Played the Celtics one more time, won another one. And the legacy is ironclad, man. 5-time champ, 20 seasons with the Lakers, one of the best athletes of all time. And it was a 1-year anniversary of him transitioning. So Kobe knows that there's so many people that loved him, continue to love him, and you just see it every day. There's stuff about him still, the murals and the news, everything, man. So rest in peace, Kobe. Rest in peace, Gigi. Rest in peace, the 7 others in the helicopter crash. Prayers to you and your family. Excuse me, y'all. Let's see here. So a little bit of news now to get into. So some first half postponements in the league are already being rescheduled for the second half. So you got teams like the Wizards who've been severely affected. They were out for a week. You got the Grizzlies severely affected. You have other teams who've had to postpone here like 2 or 3 games. So it's been tough. And I've talked about it on a couple of these last pods. This is just the way it's going to be, man. We're going to need time to to still get through this pandemic, and pro leagues trying to do this and travel to these respective cities, their respective cities, and they take a lot of risk in doing it. They're not going to do another bubble just yet, so they're trying to add more precautions now. And Chance tweeted out some more stuff, like going into the specifics of how people can visit other people in different cities. You're limited to like 4 family members, 2 other members. You got to test same day. You can stay out for about an hour and then get back to your hotel by 6. Little stuff like that. So they're trying to do their best to crack down. You can see it in the after games that players can't really shake hands, even though they still do. Players can't really swap jerseys, which they still try to do. It's just a weird year, man. And it's funny. This is something that I will get into right now. You see every team is just playing out of their freaking minds right now in terms of the way they shoot. All the open shots, all the high percentages, all these players averaging 20-plus points. We're in an era where there's just so much scoring, it doesn't make any sense. And everyone has incredible offensive ratings, and you start to wonder why. And I was talking about this a little bit. I was talking with my dad about it. And the one thing that I think is the most the thing that affects all this stuff the most is the crowds. There are no crowds to really bother these players no more. And the level of distraction just isn't there. When you go to a city, you can't really do nothing no more. Restaurants aren't open in most of them, and you're not allowed to really leave anyway. But in terms of the game itself, not being able, when you don't have to deal with fans, it's a totally different ballgame. Now, for the most part, if you play basketball before at any level, if you've been in a crowd that's crazy or whatever, for the most part, you don't really notice. You're just so locked into what you have to do during the game that you really don't notice what's going on. It's the moments where things get quiet. It's the moments where a lot of focus is drawn on you when it actually matters. So it's the times when you're at the free throw line, right? And if there's no one distracting you, you're pretty much at practice or in a scrimmage and you're shooting free throws. Or if you're wide open for 3, you might hear the opposing team's bench yell at you, but you don't hear 20,000 people yelling at you. It's entirely different. So there's a level of comfort that comes with what's going on right now. And that's why you see so many blowouts. You see certain teams just jacking up threes and they're knocking them down, and see a lot of different point differentials. But we're starting to see some regression to the mean, and that was going to happen regardless. You're seeing guys shoot close to 50% from 3, almost 60% from the floor. Teams averaging way too many points. It's going to start going down eventually just because that's how this works. And there's so many factors that have messed up this season with the truncated scheduling and the lack of a training camp, no preseason pretty much. It's just, there's so many factors. But I think one of the biggest factors is that these arenas are just straight up empty and players are comfortable. It's a lot different when you scrimmage in and there's coaches and your bench yelling at you versus like 18,000 in an arena yelling at you. It's just entirely different. So even though the percentages are really high, and that's the reason for it, I believe it's not going to last too much longer, even with the crowds still continuing to be empty. There's certain arenas that are actually letting in some portions of the crowd now, like attendance at like 25 or 50% capacity. There's arenas that have COVID sniffing dogs, stuff like that. So it's going to start ramping up again a little bit more. And the home crowd will feel like more of the home crowd again. The away crowd, or the crowd that's jeering and booing the away team, that's going to have more of an effect. It just is. So hopefully, man, like I said, everything with COVID before, let's just try to get past this, please. And then let's try to get back to some normalcy, man. The NBA is still going to have an all-star game, technically. So They're discussing whether or not to have it in March. The site that's being discussed is Atlanta, which makes absolutely no sense. But I mean, do with that what you will. But even if the game is not played, players will still be recognized as all-stars regardless. And I think that's really awesome because it's an incredible honor in the NBA. Even though when you dig deep into it, it's really just a you were great in the first half of the season award. um, Being an all-star is on your resume. For Hall of Famers and great players like that, they mention how many all-star games you make because it's a mark of who you are in the league, not just by your production, but by your popularity and by recognition from your peers. Players like Trae Young and Pascal Siakam were voted all-star starters last year. That's a big deal. Guys like Brandon Ingram made their first all-star team last year. Those are big deals, and the momentum just keeps flowing for you from that point on. So I'm glad that they're still doing it because there's players like Jaylen Brown who's having a career year who deserves all-star attention. They're going to open up the voting pretty soon. So that's going to be something to pay attention to moving forward. These guys still deserve the recognition. Like Sabonis has been playing well for Indiana. He deserves another look. The guys in Brooklyn are going to get in. Man. I'm just excited that they're going to continue to uphold that. And who knows, we might still have a game. I don't really see the benefit to it. We're just trying to do our best to not have people be close to each other. And now we're going to bring guys from possibly 20-ish, 25-ish different teams all into one space and then tell them to just go back to their teams like everything's back to normal. I don't think it's a smart move. So name them all-stars. That's totally fine. But let's move on. We don't really need it this year. Some WNBA news. Candace Parker, after 13 seasons with the Los Angeles Sparks, the team that drafted her number 1 overall, she's leaving after 13 years, which is crazy. She's going to go home and play for the Chicago Sky. That instantly turns them into one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. The WNBA schedule is just a little wonky because it's only about 30-ish games, and playoffs are like baseball where it's a best of 3, best of 3, best of 5. So the games there aren't really many games to play, but it's a really big deal when one of the best players of all time finally leaves one of the biggest markets of all time, the Los Angeles Sparks, and decides to go home. So shout out to Candace Parker, big hooper, big time, literally one of the best, not just female, but best hoopers of all time. And she's done great work for CNC and NBA TV as well. You can already see her looking to get her transition on, kind of like Chinia Gwumake for ESPN as well. So shout out to Candace Parker, man. Real win, always. Let's see here, guys. February 10th. So the G League Ignite. That's when the bubble is gonna kick off. They're gonna play the Santa Cruz Warriors, and the Santa Cruz Warriors have Jeremy Lin and their first round or second round pick Nico Mannion. They're gonna be on that squad playing him. So shout out to them, man. We really want to see what this G League Ignite team is all about. I've only seen like scrimmage highlights and things on Instagram, but they have a couple of guys who are projected to be top 5, top 10 picks, and Jonathan Green and Jonathan Kuminga, or Jalen Green, excuse me, and then Jonathan Kuminga. Those guys are supposed to be really good. Kuminga is more of the all-around guy who has a lot of great defensive potential. Jalen Green is more of the super athletic guard who scores at a really good rate. They also have some other guys who didn't go to the league or didn't go to college right away, like Daishen Nix, Isaiah Todd. Shout out to the Filipinos, Kai Soto. Guys like that. So I'm excited to see what that team looks like besides playing just scrimmages and stuff. So the college season's already starting to pick up. You see guys like Jalen Suggs, who's worked his way into top 5 potential. Evan Mobley, he plays for USC. USC just ends up getting lottery centers playing for him. Onyeka Okongwu last year for USC was really good, and he hasn't even played this year for Atlanta yet, which makes a curious. It's still a curious pick for me because even though he's 6'9", he's a center, and they paid all that money for Clint Capella to be their center, and Clint Capella's been balling. So for them to draft Onyeka doesn't make any sense to me, but I mean, it's Atlanta, so we'll see how it goes. They are trying to trade John Collins, so maybe they're trying to guard against that. Who knows? Evan Mobley, really mobile, really versatile center. He's 7 feet. He's really skinny, and he gets bumped off his spot a little bit. He's going to have to bulk up and learn how to deal with contact, but the kid is incredibly versatile on the offensive and defensive ends. He's in potential talks to be the number 1 pick, so watch out for him. He's a name to know. Cade Cunningham has been the number 1 pick projection for a while now, 6'8" point guard, Oklahoma State. Kid can literally do everything. He's a good shooter, great playmaker, 6'8" size for a point guard is beautiful, can be a capable defender. Honestly, he checks off all the boxes. He's an incredible floor guy, and by floor guy, we say that he, even if he doesn't hit like the highest of high ceilings, because of everything he does well, he's going to have a career. He's going to be a solid player no matter what, meaning his floor is going to be solid no matter what, even if he doesn't reach a super ceiling. So shout out to Cade Cunningham. I think he's going to be the number 1 pick. He's been going wire to wire pretty much. I think that's what's going to happen. So keep an eye out for some of those names, man. Green and Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Kuminga, Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham. We'll talk about more of those guys as the season goes on. I'll get into a couple of those names as we keep going because it's important. Talked about them last year when we were like, okay, got to get some profiles for LaMelo, Obi Toppin, James Wiseman, guys like that. And you see how they're affecting the game right now. Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, you got to know where the rookies are coming from because next year we got high school kids like Chet Holmgren, who's going to be really good. 2 years from now, you're going to keep hearing the name of Imani Bates. He's like the 6'11" kid. He was 6'11" when he was a sophomore, and now he's 6'11" as a junior, and he plays almost like KD-ish. It's crazy. He plays with a real mean streak, and I think it's a little – it's not fake tough, but he has got to watch himself sometimes. Sometimes he, like, after he dunks on people or does them dirty, he gets really into people's faces. And if he tries to do that in the league or next level, he's going to meet the wrong one. So I just hope that if he wants the smoke, he better know that eventually someone's going to come at him, and hopefully he's ready for it. But as a player, he's the best player probably in the class, or not just in the class, regardless of any age. So look out for him. He's like KD Light. The kid is going to be nice. Players of the week, NBA players of the week. We got Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. The big men are killing it. 29, 15, and 7 for Jokic in a 3-0 week last week, and Embiid averaged 37 and 12 while his team also went 3-0. Denver Nuggets are starting to tick up those standards again, y'all. Don't sleep on us. 11 and 7 now. We've won 7 of our last 10 games. Team is looking good. They're getting healthy other than Jamal Murray and PJ Dozier pulling his hamstring the other night. So watch out for my Nuggets, man. They're doing it. And Jokic has been an MVP. I'll talk about these guys a little bit in a second. And Joel Embiid, probably the MVP frontrunner at this point, averaging 37 and 12 for Philly. Best record in the East. They just beat the Lakers off of Tobias Harris shot. Talk about that for a second. That was a really nice game. And the way that it ended was sick. It was the Lakers going on a 13-0 run, playing incredible defense and making some ridiculous shots. LeBron had this pass from the baseline to KCP where he hit a fadeaway 3. Made absolutely no sense. And then Philly played this just a basic pin down play so horribly. I tweeted that it was like a high school team. All they did was bring one guy and set a screen for AD. He rolls off, and then AD gets a wide open layup. Like no communication between Joel and Danny Green. Like what are y'all doing? It's possibly the last offensive possession for the Lakers. You got to step up. But then they've been saved by the first player of the week this year, Tobias Harris, who's been hooping, man. I still think that he's super overpaid, but he's been playing well this year. So we can't shit on him too much. So he's still overpaid, but he's been doing his job, and he hit the game winner against LA, keeping the Sixers at the top of the Eastern Conference. They're at 13-6 right now, and with the Lakers loss, they dropped down to 14-5. It's their first road loss this year. The same thing that Philly was struggling with last year, they're struggling with this year, playing on the road, even with no fans. They're 3-5. At home, they're now 10-1. And the East has been a lot better this year. If you look at the standings right now, you go Philly, Milwaukee, Boston, Indiana, Brooklyn, the Hawks, Cavs, Knicks. That top 5 is really solid. And then 6, 7, 8 are just a bunch of teams that play really hard. I'm going to talk about some teams that are pretty disappointing in a second. But excuse me. If we go back to the players of the week and the MVPs, it's funny because the 3 players that I thought would have the best shot to win MVP are probably the top 3 candidates right now. I'll talk about, it was in my 38th podcast. It was when I was talking with Jarwin, first episode of the second season. I'll tell you exactly what I said in terms of we were going to make cases for our 3 guys who could possibly win MVP, and I'll start with Jokic. Nuggets have the best record in the West. If he goes 22, 11, and 7 with the best record in the conference, I could see it happening. And just look at him. He's been averaging 25, 11, and now the assists are starting to drop down a little bit more. He's gotten it down to about 9 per game, which is still, are you kidding me? 9 assists a game for a center. And the Nuggets are starting to creep up in the standings again. They got back up to 5th. So everyone wanted to crap on us because we started 1-4. I literally paid no attention to it. Now they're back in the thick of things. And once Jokic, if the wins continue to pile up, the stats are still going to be there. And he's going to be definitely in the running for MVP. Joel Embiid, I said I could see it if Philly finished with the first or second best record in the East. Right now they're first. And I bet on Embiid being someone who would get it together, who would I believed in the new diet and I believed in the new workout plan. I thought he was going to continue to get better. I thought he could go 28-14 and have an incredible season. So far, he's 27-12. So it's pretty close to what I predicted. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be 3 for 3 on this one when I say LeBron James, because LeBron, prior to the loss tonight, had the best record in the entire league. They were 14-4. Now they're 14-5. It's kind of, they're still technically the best, but win percentages kind of give it to, it's a tie with them in Philly, 14-5, 13-6. But I didn't think the Lakers would go that hard this year, and Anthony Davis really hasn't gone that hard this year. But I've said it didn't mean that the Lakers still wouldn't have the best record in the West. I thought he'd still average double-digit assists, which he's not, and still average 25 a night. So he's still at the 25 a night mark. He's around 7-7 right now. And I thought he would take advantage of the reverse Giannis effect because of his narrative. Because I already hear it, and it's annoying as hell, y'all. I don't know why. Every 5 podcasts I come on here, I have to explain to people in the media what the MVP is. It's like no one understands what this award is. It makes no sense. I hate it. And I get it. People have to have content. They want to be different. You got to say this and that or whatever. But you just sound stupid. You're wrong. The MVP is not the best player in the league. LeBron has been the best player in the league for like 15 seasons, man. But he doesn't win the award every season. You want to know why? Because he doesn't take every regular season seriously. If he took every regular season seriously, then yes, give him 15 straight MVPs. That's fine. But if you saw how KD played in 2014 without Russell Westbrook closing it out for that Oklahoma City team, he deserved the MVP. If you saw how Steph played in 2016 when he was unanimous, he deserved the MVP. Was he better than LeBron? People were starting to question it a little, but he wasn't. But he deserved the MVP because he was the best regular season player. 2017, Russell Westbrook. That was kind of a weird year. And if you look at Cleveland, they were like a 50-win team, and LeBron didn't really care. And you could start to see him taking possessions off defensively, and he really wasn't going into much. The Russell Westbrook MVP, you can reprimand a little bit because even though he averaged a triple-double, 31, 10, and 10, he shot 42% from the field. He was incredibly inefficient, and now we kind of see it's what it looks like for Russ now in Washington. But I'll talk about them later. You already see everyone planting the seeds. They're like, well, LeBron has been doing this in year 18. He's doing this without Anthony Davis. He's doing this. He's the best. Can we just stop not giving it to LeBron? Because of we keep trying to say that we don't care about his greatness. We keep trying to make things up about other players, and now we just not going to give him the MVP. Yes, we're not going to give him the MVP. No, why? Because y'all pushing the same dumbass opposite narrative that everyone else was trying to say is actually true. It's not. We give the MVP to usually the best player on the best team because he has the biggest effect. Giannis, the last 2 seasons, best player, 2 60-win Milwaukee teams. He's the MVP. Year before that, James Harden, top record in the West with the 65-win Rockets. MVP, yes. Russell Westbrook, outlier. That's why I said most of the time. 2016 Warriors, 73 wins, best record in the West, MVP. Steph, 2015, MVP. You could kind of argue that, but they still top record in the West, 14. Kevin Durant, top record. And then what happened in 13 and 12? LeBron won the MVP. Why? Miami Heat had the best record in the East, and they were unstoppable. And he was the catalyst for all of it. So, and I'll say this again because I have to do it. Because it's what people keep trying to bring up with LeBron. And I know ain't no media people out there listening to me right now. I don't care. I'm getting my shit off right now. This is the one point that kills any argument of last year and usually the stuff before about who deserves an MVP. Let's just look at last year with Giannis. 30, 14, and 6. Best record in the league. If LeBron averaged 30, 14, and 6 for the Los Angeles Lakers last season, and they had the best record in the league, would he have won the MVP? Yes, absolutely, 1,000%. If Giannis averaged 26, 11, and 7 for a team with the second best record in the league, while LeBron was averaging 30, 14, and 6, who would have won? LeBron, Ramon, James, because he would have had the best stats on the best team in the league, and it would have solidified, or the record would have been solidified by his play. So, this is a season where, even in the early portion, because obviously it's all we can work off of, he's in there. He's in the conversation. For sure. Top 3, no question. But don't just be like, oh, we know LeBron's the best player in the world, so we got to give it to him. That's just lazy as hell, man. Look at the numbers. Look at the records. See who's winning. See who's had the biggest effect. That's how we give the MVP. There are some years where it's weird. Some years where it's tough. But that's how we give the MVP. Y'all keep getting me hyped on MVP talk, man. It's ridiculous. We're only 18 games in. People already want to do it to me. Bradley Beal's still miserable. I already talked about the Wizards are 3-11 now, and I talked about last week possible trade destinations for Bradley Beal because of how terrible Washington is. And It's starting to look that way, man. It's starting to look like there was a video going around where him just his head in his hands and he just looks incredibly frustrated with the team. And he should be because they're hot garbage. But those three destinations I thought were places that he could go. He should still be considered. Those should still be places he should be considered traded to. And then first take yesterday morning, I believe, or a couple of days before, it was just incredibly lazy. They asked Max and Stephen A, who should Bradley Beal get traded to? The first answer was Milwaukee, and the second answer was the Clippers. I get it. It would be nice to put the leading scorer in the NBA on one of the best teams in the league that would kind of put them on par with the top or the cream of the crop in both leagues. But guess what? Neither of those damn teams can make a trade. Milwaukee gave up all their damn picks, all the cheese, all the butter in Wisconsin to get Drew Holiday over there. The Clippers gave them their spot in the Forum. They gave up all their parking spots. They gave up all the chicken joints. They gave up, and they're moving to the Forum now, and every first-round pick from now till infinity to get Kawhi and Paul George over there. They have shit else to trade. There's nothing left. So why do Max and Stephen A get to get away with saying some dumb shit like that? I'm sorry. Why do they get away with it? It makes no sense. Give me something realistic, man. Neither of those teams can even come up with a quarter of a trade that is worth Bradley Beal. It doesn't make any sense, man. And it's lazy. It's terrible. I hate it so much. Philly can do it, but they're not going to. I told y'all about the Denver scenario. I told y'all about the Miami scenario, which is probably more likely just because Miami started off so slow. And it's pretty much for the teams in contention. I still like the idea of him going to Golden State. You got to think about teams with draft capital, like the Thunder and the Pelicans, who have a lot of picks that came in from the Lakers and the Bucks and for OKC all over the place. But OKC is not going to trade for him. They don't want to win. New Orleans doesn't want to trade for him, or New Orleans could trade for him, but they're 5-10 right now. And who knows if that mix would even work. And they would probably have to give up someone significant in order to get him. And they're not giving up Ingram or Zion. So there's just been a lot of laziness going on with these takes right now. And it's frustrating. So Bradley Beal, I think he's going to get traded. It's just so bad in Washington. The narrative is going to continue to push for him. It's tough because he has 1.5 years left on his deal. So it's going to be, whoever gives up a lot for him has to know you're going to get half of him in a weird season, and then another full season of him. He's going to decline his player option and look to get a long-term deal when he's 29 years old. So just know that. And if you can deal with that, if you're a team, like if you're one of these top teams who has the requisite pieces to trade for him, then you're okay with doing that, then you should go ahead and go for it. But everything, if he can't go to the Bucks, Stephen A. / Max, he can't go to the Clippers. There's no one to trade for, okay? Move on. And then a couple of teams that just don't make any sense in terms of being disappointing so far. I'm going to highlight them really quick. First off, the New Orleans Pelicans, I glossed over them just a little bit. 5-10 right now. They don't make any sense. It's funny because, oh, man. If you look at them in terms of their advanced stats, the best defensive team in basketball is the Los Angeles Lakers. Their rating is 103.9. The Pelicans are at 111. So it makes no point. So it pretty much means they're giving up, it's just points per 100 possessions. So every game, there's around an average of 100 possessions per game. So that's why offensive and defensive ratings are based off the percent or number of possessions, the number of points per 100 possessions. So the Lakers on average, every 100 possessions give up 104 points per game. That's the best in the league. The second best is the Grizzlies. Shout out to them at 106.1, man. But then you look at the bottom of the league, Sacramento is historically trash at 118, and New Orleans is at 116. Their offensive rating is 108. That gives them a negative net rating of 3.4, which ties them for bottom 7 in the NBA. The worst is Minnesota at -9. So even with Sacramento being at the bottom defensively, at least their offense is a little bit okay. Minnesota's just a hot mess, but I expected them to be trash, so it doesn't really matter. Zion has looked lost on defense. Brandon Ingram has looked just as good as he was last year. Zion has continued to show he can be a brute force inside, but defensively, they just have nothing, man. And Stan Van Gundy's going to have a lot to deal with. They look like they're trying to trade Lonzo and JJ Redick at this time. But that's the problem with this team. You're starting Steven Adams with Zion, Ingram, Lonzo, and Bledsoe are your primary ball handlers, and then you have JJ, who is a shooter. But that lineup has no spacing whatsoever, so you're not going to get any shots off. And it's just they're going to have to find a way to make some moves, and it's tough because I expected Zion to go like 27 and 8 this year, and although he's only 4 points below that, defensively it's just been an incredible disappointment. So they need to find ways to get themselves back on track. The Washington Wizards, I don't think I really need to go into them that much. They're funny because they're still the fastest paced team in the league at 105 possessions per game, and they have a okay offensive rating. They're number 12 in the league in offense, but defensively, they're 28th. So they also have a negative net rating, about the same as the New Orleans Pelicans. Talked about it already. Russell Westbrook, there's a stat that he has 163 points on 163 shots. Inefficient is his middle name. We know this. Washington Wizards, Bradley Beal leads the league in scoring at 35 a clip. But doesn't matter. What they need to do is trade him, get as much as they can back, and just wait out the next couple of years with Russell Westbrook, be bad, get some good draft picks, and try to rebuild that squad. That's all you can do. And next up's the Miami Heat. Now, Miami is tough because even though they're 6-10 right now, and if you look into the numbers, things really don't look that well. They don't look good for them at all. On offense, they're the bottom. They're 25th in the league in offensive rating, and defensively, they're almost middle of the pack. They're 22nd right now in defensive rating. So they've been missing a lot of players. COVID's been hitting them hard. Tyler Hero's been in and out of the lineup. Jimmy Butler's barely seen the floor. So I think they are disappointing. They're like it seemed like the Raptors, though, who's also been disappointing. But they're a 3 or 4 game winning streak from being 500 again, and both of those teams are incredibly well coached, come from incredibly well cultures, top to bottom. I don't see them continuing these trends. Once we get past January into February and we have that break and then we start to figure out what the second half of the schedule is going to look like, that's when I think things are going to turn around for these teams because they're going to start getting healthy, start building more continuity. That's what I think is going to happen. So Miami, still incredibly disappointing based on what they've been known to be. I even add Toronto as well. But look at in the second half. I think those teams are going to get healthy, start to build more continuity again. They're veteran squads that do take a little bit of time to get into it. Players in and out of the lineup. Give them till the second half. I think they're going to be good. All right, y'all, and that's going to be it for episode 43 of the Good Look Podcast. I'm your host, Leonard Pinckney, a.k.a. Agent P, a.k.a. L. Pinckney. Thank you guys again for listening on the YouTubes. Thank you for watching, y'all. Please like, rate, share, comment, and, of course, subscribe. It all really helps. And if you're listening to just the audio, Anchor FM, shout out to them. Appreciate them for giving me this platform. Like and review the pod. 5-star reviews. All appreciated. Hit y'all again next week with a number one. The NBA season is cooking, y'all. And I'm really excited. I'm going to get some more guests on here, promise. And I can't wait to keep talking hoop with y'all. So, hope y'all have a good one.
Good luck.